All right.
All right.
So whether we are live or not, we're certainly alive to the best of my ability to understand. And I'll
I
take I'll
mean,
take the
still
win.
alive.
I'll take the win. And I'm alive here with my dear beloved sister Lauren.
Mm,
And I want to start with just taking one deep breath of appreciation with you, just celebrating
mhm,
this moment together. Mm. So, a brief introduction for the unfamiliar. Dear Lauren and I go back many, many years, so I can say with incredible depth of experience that she's a special one. Lauren is a Renaissance woman. She's a
mhm,
remembering of the ancient, divine, wise, loving, beautiful, truthful goodness of the feminine that I feel somehow got diluted, distracted, even demolished in many places and is coming back. Is coming back through portals and entities like you. So I have the highest love, respect, and appreciation for you, Lauren. Just saying
mhm.
that in live, I think, because you already know that.
I'm so touched. I feel like part of the reason I'm able to be that woman is because the people around me give me permission to. And often there's, you name such expansive, important, beautiful qualities. And I feel like those qualities in me come out when I'm around you. Um, and there's, that's not just about me. That's also about you and the people that I'm lucky to surround myself with. So thank you.
Let me be
Thank you
surrounded
for
by,
allowing me to be that person.
oh my gosh. There's so much to say about this. There's so much. We can just dive into that. How
Yeah.
what you were really the people like you were the matriarchs, were the wisdom bearers, were the village elders. And I have a sense that that whole thing is coming back. It really is coming back. And it's really about holding the container for the re-emergence or remembering of exactly those Sophiatic qualities of love,
Mm,
respect, reverence for being in the fabric of life.
mm,
I mean, your accolades, you're a psychologist, a researcher, you've studied different ways, modalities of brain care and healthcare. And you also exude natural wisdom, intelligence, insight. So it's an absolutely delicious treat to deep dive with you. So without any further exaltations, let's just dive right in. When we were speaking in the car,
mhm,
you expressed this very beautiful notion of what I understood to be like the four existential dreads that we as human beings all may encounter, regardless of gender, creed, age, social status, etc. I'd love to just deep dive into that, just for us to understand exactly what they point to.
totally. So we were speaking about, I think we were speaking about specifically this book, Existential Psychotherapy, which I actually have in my office right here. It's one of those old books that you could tell have had a good life, a serious life, they've been places.
LD Yalom. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Irvin Yalom.
Mhm.
And this is a psychology vet, amazing, amazing psychotherapist, psychiatrist, actually, I believe, as well. And he speaks about the four givens of human existence that can cause some trouble for us psychically. And those are death, the fact that we and everybody that we love is going to die at some point, isolation, meaninglessness, and then the last one, which is a bit counterintuitive, freedom. So we can talk about each of those however you'd like, one at a time, all together. But those are really the four givens of human existence that can be really uncomfortable for us.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Death, isolation, meaninglessness, and surprise entry, freedom.
yeah, yeah. Freedom is a real surprise because I feel like culturally we think of freedom, that word, as being something so positive. Especially, I think there's a bit of an American mindset of, the pursuit of freedom, the pursuit of happiness. Um, and it sounds great, but psychologically, freedom can be scary. Freedom to be whoever you are, freedom to choose your own destiny, to choose your own life. They say with great freedom, with great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man.
Likewise with freedom. Yeah, Spider-Man. Likewise with freedom. With great freedom comes great responsibility. Because we are free, we have the responsibility to choose. And having the responsibility to choose can be very unsettling. So I feel like I'm sort of speaking in like abstract terms. I
I
can
love
make
it.
it
We're
more
gonna
concrete.
let's go
Yeah?
meta to micro, and
Let's
let's
go
go
meta
first
to
order. We
micro.
started with freedom. Let's go with freedom. As
Okay.
we speak, what I'm feeling into, and this is a weird connotation, slavery.
Hmm.
Slaves are there's no freedom there. There's it's literally slavery. And in a
Hmm.
way, what you're pointing to is that they don't have the burden of choice, and hence there is no existential dread in that sense because there isn't that responsibility of freedom.
Hmm.
Uh,
I think it's really interesting that you bring us to this extreme point so that we can really delve into what this means from start to finish.
hmm,
So I feel like slavery is a very, very, of course, I'm not suggesting that we should all wish to be slaves. And I
100%.
think that, yeah, but I think you raise a good point. I think what we could bring, I think a really interesting idea with regards to freedom could be, let's take it to lack of freedom in a certain realm that's more, more of us today are faced with, such as the choice of our life partner. Who are we
Mm.
going to marry? A lot of cultures, arranged marriages are still very popular and very successful. And for this is one of the first parts of the world and times of the world where we are free to choose our profession. In the past, it could have been I am a carpenter. My father was a carpenter. My great grandfather was a carpenter, etc. And therefore, I will be a carpenter. They're going to choose who I'm going to marry, and that's that. But now we must choose who we're going to be in terms of our profession, where we're going to live, who we're going to marry, etc. And that freedom to choose is scary. Committing to one choice closes off all the other doors of choices that we could have chosen, all the other doors of identities that we could have been. I think slavery, though, just to circle back to that, it's making me think of this psychologist named Viktor Frankl, who also is sort of an existential psychologist, and he was a Holocaust survivor. And he wrote an amazing book called Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book, he talks about his experience completely unfree as a prisoner in the concentration camps. And he speaks about how essentially the last of human freedoms is your freedom to choose your attitude in any given
Oh,
set of
okay.
circumstances. I want to find his actual, he said it, I think, probably more beautifully than I did. But essentially, the last of human freedoms is your freedom to choose your attitude in any given set of circumstances. And there's always a choice to make. And you think about slavery and you hear the music that Black slaves in America wrote. You hear about the way that Black slaves cared for the children of their white masters with such love and attention. And there is still a possibility for dignity within slavery, for beauty within the concentration camps. In this book, Man's Search for Meaning, he speaks about there was one morning where all the prisoners in these concentration camps were lined up in the middle of the winter naked, and if they couldn't make it from point A to point B, they would be shot on the spot. It was about 4:30 in the morning, cold winter, and as they were in this horrendous context, the sun started to rise. And it was blue and purple and pink, and all of these emaciated prisoners shaking, lined up, couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the beauty of the sunrise. And so I've said a lot. I'll stop
This is
there.
beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
So there seems to be two flavors of freedom. There's this one when I'm in the shopping mall and I'm bewildered by the choice of soaps. Like, okay, too many choices, And the other when I'm choosing something, like a life partner or a career or a place to stay in, I'm simultaneously rejecting every other option. And that is the crux. So there's that objective sort of, um, let's call it the stuckness of freedom. But then what you're pointing to is something that is more in that inner realm, the realm of choosing one's perspective, attitude, way of being. So what I'm summarizing this as, the freedom outside might create existential dread, yet there's another form of freedom that that is much more in one's realm of mastery, and that can lead us to profound life experiences regardless of external circumstance. And we're taking really extreme examples. Did I catch that right?
I think that you definitely caught that right, and I'll nuance it a little bit further. I think that the point with this existential psychotherapy is that whether we like it or not, we are always free. There are always certain ways in which we are free. And whether we choose to acknowledge that freedom or we choose to ignore it is still a choice. And so, if we were to choose to acknowledge it and choose to see our freedom in every circumstance, then perhaps we could choose more intentionally and choose more wisely. Um, from the soaps to the concentration camp, the soaps in the grocery store to the concentration camp to the life partner. And I think that there's a there the fact that we are free is very scary. The fact that we have to choose is very scary. But once we assume that freedom, once we assume that choice, we're in a completely different place, which is what sort of more along the lines of what you just voiced. We
Hmm.
come into our power in a very different way. We're 2 feet in. We're not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. We're stable. We're steady.
All in and steady. Got it.
Totally. Totally.
You know, yeah, I'm reminded of, I was in a retreat, not to go into details and names. There was one person there who was dedicating his life to expressing freedom. And in
Mm.
that, it was really funny and absurd and shocking. It was like one incident, he just farted in the elevator because he was really, I was like, you kidding me, man? You can hold up for 10 seconds? Or you talk and just walks away and just all kinds of weird stuff because, yeah, I'm a just looks so awkward because yeah, the world outside is a causality. There's cause and effect, dude. There's there's no escape from it. Whatever you do has an effect that has a cause. You're looking at the wrong place. And what I'm hearing you saying is, brother, you're already free. You're already free. And that notion of already free from a cognitive perspective has a feeling of dread to it. Dang, I'm already free. This is kind of reminding me of the Mariam Williamson quote. We are not so much afraid of our shadow, we're more afraid of our light, more afraid of what it
Mm.
means to be already free. Yeah, is that accurate? Is that on your wavelength?
The farting in the elevator? The
But the
the fact
pursuit
that we're
of
already
freedom
free?
being hilarious, yeah.
The pursuit of freedom is a little hilarious because we all are already free. I
Yeah.
totally agree. We are already free, whether we like it or not. And some people, I think that this is not an easy statement to make in our current world, and I think some people would have a lot of disagreements to say about this. How could um, to say that we are free is not to say that some people are systematically oppressed. To say that we are free is not to say that some people are not in war zones or hungry right now. But there is always some freedom in every situation. And as Viktor Frankl said, the last of human freedoms is the freedom to choose your attitude in any circumstance, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that part of the responsibility of assuming your freedom is
Hmm.
also what you said about there are cause and effects, and your actions have different consequences on different people. You fart in the elevator with a cute girl, she's not going to want to date you.
Odds are high. Odds are high.
Necessarily, unless she's into that. But yeah, I think that in a way, to the crux of what the freedom pillar means is really about authorship. You are the author of your own life. And it's linked as well, I think, to this fear of death, because if life was infinite, the weight of that freedom might feel less heavy. But because life is finite, you must choose, and your choice will negate all other choices.
We both see, people one-on-one and deep dive with people, and this is something very often come across.
Yeah.
Questioning and a doubting of the choice they had made in all freedom. They did not
Yes.
have to marry this person, and they did. And now there's
Yes.
doubt because they've simultaneously rejected every other option. And or it
Yes.
could be a career, or it could be whatever health choice, whatever it might be, right? So I do want to just really put a highlight on separating two things. We're talking about freedom here. We're not talking about
Mhm.
hurting and suffering. The
Mhm.
notion of already free doesn't mean that there is no pain and suffering and harsh, unacceptable, uncondonable circumstances. They're two separate things we're speaking about here. It's not a
It's a,
condoning of
yes,
mean-spiritedness.
totally. And it's not victim blaming,
Mm.
right? I think that that's also a key. There are, in every present moment, there's something that one can choose. However, there are clearly individuals who have been victims of all sorts of circumstances that they have not chosen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I'm like the transition kid because I was born in Assam, India, with very
Hmm.
much, my father's engineer, my uncle, my grandfather, all engineers. So it's like, what kind of engineer would you be? So I
Hmm.
streamlined to engineering from day one. Clearly on the path to arranged marriage, which didn't work out. You know what I mean? I went from
Hmm.
that sort of almost structured format to just suddenly, hey, you can stay wherever you want to, marry whoever you want to, do whatever you want to. So that I'm aware of the transition from having, one way of seeing life to this other way of like, all right, into the wild open, whatever you can do.
Mm.
Um, yeah, if there was a right or wrong way, that we'd all be doing it. So I guess it is, it's something that we just navigate with. But I do want to sort of, with audacity, consider tweaking what Viktor Frankl said.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Um, he said, perhaps our last freedom is freedom to choose our attitude. It
Let's
may
find.
be perhaps our only freedom is that.
Mm.
Life is kind of happening, and the only freedom we have is choosing our attitude towards what's happening.
I think you raise a really interesting point because a lot of our sense of predictability or control is an illusion. And so a lot happens to us that we could not have predicted that we cannot control. And then we are faced with the freedom moment, the freedom to choose our attitude, the freedom to choose our response. And yeah, I agree with your tweak. I think that's a really interesting tweak. Yeah, yeah. And there's another quote actually that is attributed to Viktor Frankl, but I think it's actually Rollo May, and
Hmm.
it's very similar. It's about the space between stimulus and response. And he says, in between stimulus and response, there is a space. So in between something happening and you responding to it, there is a space. And in that space lies your ability to choose. And in having an ability to choose lies your freedom.
Freedom.
I'm butcher. Yeah.
No, well, that is like so Viktor Frankl. It wasn't him. That is so
It's
100%
so
attributed to him.
largely attributed to him, but
Yeah,
actually
okay.
I think it was Rollo May.
Wow, that alone is
Yeah,
educational. This
yeah.
makes our conversation educational.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a very, very classic quote. No matter who said it, it's just so dead on point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me how you understand that.
Oh, well, I think that it has different meanings for everybody, but for me, it's actually had a very personal impact on my life because I'm somebody who really used to think that I needed to have a smart response and quickly. When people would ask me something, I must have an answer right away. Um, and I think that I really am moving more as I see more clients in a clinical psychology setting. I'm moving more and more towards the belief that everyone has this inner power to heal themselves. They just need some space. And so, in the past, with clients, for instance, somebody would say something and I would try and respond right away, or there would be a moment of silence in the room and I would try to fill it with something useful. And I'm starting to feel into the truth that the more space I create between stimulus and response, the more magic happens. In the actual therapy room with a client, allowing them more moments of silence and stillness for them, for whatever their truth is to sort of slowly bubble up. So that's with clients, in the therapy room. And then also in my interactions with my loved ones, with people in my everyday life, I have a quick first response that comes to me right away. That's not often the truest or most authentic response. It's just sort of the knee-jerk reaction, first thing that comes. And so the slower I am, the more honest I am. And the slower I am with my clients, the more space I give them to heal themselves.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm. I
yeah,
think this is so important what you're pointing to really, this could be life-changing for our dear viewer listener potentially, or add a fresh perspective to this. So what I'm hearing is slowing it down. You don't have to race for answers. You don't have to be Mr. or Mrs. Fix-It. Give it some space to simmer, percolate, contemplate, and let that arise. So the
totally.
secret ingredient is time, sort of a thing that makes a dish delicious. And also the way I'm understanding this, in between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies your freedom. Something like this.
Something like this, yeah.
Yeah, something like this. So there is stimulus happening, which means there is some contact with our sensory perception. Light, color, shape, sounds, taste, whatever it might be, right? There's some contact stimulus. My senses are being stimulated. And I'm responding, you know, physically, verbally, whatever it might be. So there's a stimulus. I'm going into a bit of a Buddhist perspective, 101 guide on what's happening there.
Yeah.
There's stimulus. And when there's stimulus, the next thing that happens is recognition. So first of all, there is stimulus of cognition. So my senses are cognizing something, lights, colors, shapes, sounds. And then I'm recognizing this as Lauren. There's
Mm.
recognition happening. So my mind goes into my entire file of past experiences and without a doubt pulls out the Lauren file. There's no mistake. I don't think you're Megan. I don't think you're Sally. I don't think you're Sam. I know you're Lauren. It's incredible how accurate that is, right? Recognition not only happens in that, but also the body plays out the sensation of how I experienced this before. And my
Mm-hmm.
experience, a similar experience in the past was extremely pleasant. So I'm having very pleasant sensations in my body, right? And then from that experience of either pleasant, neutral, unpleasant, I am reacting physically or verbally, right? So done in an unconscious way, that's happening in an autonomic robotic way, cognizing, recognizing, stimulating, reacting, blah, 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 right? So the space between, the way I understand it, and I'm sure you'll resonate is because you're also a meditator, is that we can be aware of the sensation without becoming the sensation. And in that awareness, there's a space between the stimulus, the sensation, and the one that's aware of it. And that little space can make all the difference. The difference between why I oughta, I'm angry, or there is anger, a passing phenomena. And that little space between turns it from a subjective experience to an objective experience. So I'm seeing it that way as well. That space between witness consciousness and falling into delusion that you are that anger.
100%. And I feel like you've really precisely that is what gives the space its power.
Mm.
The fact that you, because if you just become the anger in that moment, you're done for. You have no, the anger takes over and you behave in ways you're still making a choice. You're choosing not to take the space, whether you're aware of that choice or not. But the anger takes over and you behave in ways that perhaps you wouldn't have chosen to if you were more aware of what was happening.
Yeah.
And so, and you mentioned all of your past sort of cognitions, emotions, experiences that are automatically brought up when you see the face of somebody who you know and you instantly go pleasant sensation. But then let's say, for example, you're in therapy because you're having difficulty with your spouse. And when you see their face and you have all of the past experiences and all of the things that you two have gone through together, and you don't automatically get triggered with the pleasant sensation memory, automatically you have a whole host of other past beliefs, stories, feelings, sensations that are brought to the forefront. Then what do you do?
Mm.
Then it becomes a practice, a real discipline of observing, just as you mentioned, what's coming up, being in the space. And then only when the dust settles can you be truly in the present moment with what's actually happening in front of you now, as opposed to all of the past baggage that you carry along with you everywhere you go,
Oh,
right?
hey, this is getting
Yeah.
juicy. So a client is coming to you. There's a thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's say the thought is, he doesn't love me anymore.
Mm.
There's an image of the person not being loving anymore. There's
Mm-hmm.
the emotion, the meaning you're giving it, which is profound sadness. And there's
Mm-hmm.
the body sensation that goes with that, heaviness, darkness, tightness maybe. And there's an awareness of all of that. And that's the space. There's an awareness of the
Mm-hmm.
thought, the image, the emotion, and the body sensation. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the whole notion, I believe, of duplication. When you duplicate the experience, but in that duplication, you're no longer in the identification state, you're more in the witness consciousness of that state. Um,
Mm.
and
Mm.
that
And so
that
you
little
feel it as less
space,
overwhelming.
you realize
Mm.
that it is not you. The very fact that you
Mm.
can see it, just like I can see this pen and I know it's not me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Observer, observing, observed. We're kind of doing the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with that
Mm-hmm.
experience of sadness.
Totally. And it could be you're observing this pen, this he doesn't love me anymore pen, and that could be true. Maybe this pen, maybe this is a real pen that we picked up. Maybe he doesn't love you. But often what happens in therapy is that, is there any potential for any other pens here? Any other stories? What would that bring up? So maybe he doesn't love you. Okay. Um, what could be another reason for him behaving in X, Y, or Z way that made you think he doesn't love you anymore? Let's just play. Let's throw
Mhm.
out another reason. Let's create another pen. Okay, what could be another reason, etc. And we could look at all these other different pens that are all different possibilities and feel into how we change as we observe those different pens. If I were to say to you, Bhaskar, think about a lemon. Think about really the citrus of a lemon and bring it up to your, really, let's do this. Just close your
I'm in
eyes.
it. I'm seeing it already. I'm seeing a lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see the lemon, smell it with it, smell it's closed right now. You're smelling just the zest. And then you
I'm
cut it
cutting it open and
open.
I'm, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's happening inside of you as you're smelling in the lemon? Let's say you lick it.
Getting juicy inside.
Yeah. Your mouth starts to
Yeah,
salivate. It's getting
salivate.
juicy inside. Yeah. There is no lemon. But just imagining the lemon creates a whole host of physiological reactions, such as salivation in the mouth, also emotional reactions, hormonal reactions. And so thinking that he doesn't love me anymore changes me as well. Changes the way that I act with him, changes my literal physiological makeup in that moment with him. Thinking something else changes me as well. And so playing with the different possibilities through the different spaces becomes an interesting therapeutic exercise.
And therein lies your freedom.
And therein lies your freedom to choose your own story. And maybe he doesn't love you anymore. Maybe he's going to leave you. Then, whew, now you're in a new world of infinitely many new stories to choose for yourself.
Mm. Do you want another
And
pen? Are you happy with no pens? Do you want many pens?
how many pens? Yeah, maybe you could try 10 pens at once.
Maybe it's time for a pencil. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Um,
Beautiful.
and I think what's coming up for me in our conversation now is just almost a sense of play, of holding all of these a little bit lightly. And I feel like that distance between stimulus and response, that space between stimulus and response, allows you a sense of play. When you're in it, when you're in the anger that comes up, there's no possibility of watching it, of observing it. Without that possibility of observing it, of having that space, there's no possibility of playing with it, of seeing it as a story, of seeing it as a belief, etc.
I feel entire libraries can be podcasts and whatever YouTube studios with the power of play. We have so lost and forgotten the power of play. We've become so damn serious as a
Oh,
society,
yeah.
as a culture. It's like it's as my mentor Satyan Raja says, seriousness is a disease of the ego, and we all are
Mm.
suffering from this seriousitis. It's just the biggest pandemic by far. Yeah, and
Yeah,
just the holding things lightly and that power of play and curiosity and inquisitiveness can really open up such profound portals of genius, creativity, beauty, love, joy.
fun. Yeah, totally. I love that Alan Watts quote, "The angels fly because they take themselves lightly."
Yeah, yeah,
So good. So good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all that's what this is called. This podcast is called Light Conversations. And I really enjoy the word
Mm.
light because the opposite of darkness is light, heaviness is light, tightness is light. It's all about that lightness of being, just carrying yourself through life with always having a smile on the edge of your lips, knowing
Hmm.
that this is all an impermanent show that you're privileged to witness for three more breaths.
Totally. Floating.
And that does not
It's
take
interesting.
away at all any, in fact, it really amplifies sincerity. Like you're all in,
Mm.
yet it takes out all the seriousness. This is what I call 100% sincere, 0% serious.
And that, I think, brings us to the pillar of death.
Let's jump right into
Because
that. Yes.
this
Beautiful. Beautiful
100%
segue.
sincere, the 100% sincere, 0% serious lightness, sincerity, I think all of that comes when you really meditate on the fact that you are going to die. I
Expand.
want to sit in here. Yeah. So, in the same book, in this existential psychotherapy book, he writes something along the lines of the physicality of death kills you, but the idea of death saves you.
That's one more time. The physicality of death kills you.
Though the physicality of death will kill you, the
Uh-huh.
idea of death might save
Save
you.
you.
And
Sounds like a Zen koan to me. How do you understand that?
yeah, yeah, I understand that in the sense that, if you look at there's this amazing other book that I have in my office here, called Kitchen Table Wisdom, about a doctor who became actually a counselor working with cancer patients, people who are going to die. And it's a whole book of stories about the wisdom that comes towards the end of life when people really grasp their own mortality, when people are really faced with it. And you know they they speak about in this book, exactly what you're describing. This lightness, this taking life less seriously, this uh, deep sincerity, no bullshit, um, and a deep appreciation for the beauty and the mystery of life, the importance of family, all the small things to be grateful for, etc. And all of that is lived from the inside out in a very different way when one is really, really thinking about one's own death than when one can just say, it's important to write a gratitude journal and the 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 quality, the urgency at which one must live life, engage with life, when one knows that life is soon coming to an end, changes.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
This is a powerful theme indeed. I
yeah.
I've sat with this and with the question, how do I want to die?
Mm,
And how I want to die is with my last breath saying, thank you.
mm-hmm,
What a show. Thank you.
mm,
So, from a Buddhist perspective, the art of living is really the art of dying. So that in that last breath, there is just this calm, content gratitude. Thank you. What a show. That was awesome.
hmm,
So optimizing our life, for that endpoint might be one way to look at it, and reverse engineering your life to whatever makes the boat go faster that way.
mm, hmm. Yeah, as you speak, when my grandfather was dying, his name was Grandpa Steve, um, the last words that I said to him were thank you. And I feel so grateful for that. And I totally agree that it's so interesting as you speak, I so have this vision of you lying on your bed with a little smile and just giving a little nod. Thank you. The vision of you in that state is so clear to me. And we have a dear friend and sister, Mona, who actually did die, who had and came back to life, who had a near-death experience. And I think and had a wonderful near-death experience, I should say. It was so heavenly and warm and fantastic that coming back into her body was a real drag for a while. She had to learn to accept being alive because of how amazing a place she was in. And I think that she's also really a wonderful model in my life of somebody who has meditated on death and faced death in a way that allows them to live better.
Mhm.
And one of the one of the ways in which a confrontation with death helps us to live better is this idea of having sort of two modes of being or two modes of being curious. One mode where you're curious about the way that things are. It's like, oh, here's this pen. Like, how does this work? I'm curious about the way that things are. And another mode, which is the mode that people who have had near-death experiences tend to automatically go into, or people who really meditate on death tend to go into, is the mode of being in awe and wonder that things are. Not about the way that things are, just that things are. The mystery that things are. The mystery that life is life starts to baffle the mind and put you into a very, very different state of consciousness, which is also pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are certain substances, like psychedelic substances, that bring people to that state of wonderment that things are. And those can be healing for some people, dangerous for some people, and
Mm,
healing for some people.
yeah. Yeah, we can potentially go down that road as well of how plant medicine experiences can offer glitch experiences of exactly that obliteration into awe. There's a wonderful teacher
Yeah.
called Brother David Tyndale Rath, one of my favorite teachers. And he says something like, if you only stop to notice, the only suitable response is awe.
Hmm.
So,
Amen.
and
Yeah.
our beloved sister Mona, you can see that having experienced death in that way and lived to tell the tale, it changes you.
Totally.
And it, it has been said that when you trace down all the fears, at the root is the fear of death. And when that's
Yes.
no longer there, she carries herself with this, what I call Buddha badacity. She has
Yes,
that quality. She just speaks truth with so much love, clear, concise. You can feel that. So,
definitely.
yeah, there is something about being okay with death that makes you absolutely fearless. Not reckless, that's a different thing entirely, just fearless.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And in being fearless, you can be your true self. It takes a certain fearlessness to be authentic. Hmm. Yeah. I feel that, there are these studies on people who have tried to commit suicide but didn't succeed. For example, people who jump off the Golden Gate Bridge but don't actually die.
Yeah.
Um, and they're thrown, propelled into that new state of consciousness where they're wondering, they're in a state of wonder that things exist, that life exists, at the fragility and the mystery of life. And they often speak about in these studies, they have a them from before the incident and a them after the incident. And often, not always, but often they're completely new people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
to wish it on anybody, but in whatever
no.
shape and form that takes, if we truly, truly experientially understood the preciousness and impermanence of this human birth, there'd be world peace tomorrow.
Amen. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Just a few more breaths, flickering candle. Good to yourself, good
totally,
for others. Thank you at the end.
totally. Yeah. And there's meaning, good to yourself, good to others, thank you in the end. That is hugely meaningful. And I feel like culturally, in a way, I'm not doing this on purpose, but I am also bringing us to this next pillar of meaninglessness. Um,
Love it. I love it. You're a simple
yeah,
queen. Go
yeah,
for it.
I'm a segue queen. Um, culturally, we have this idea of meaning. You have to find meaning in your work. There must be a sense of
Mm,
purpose. And in a way, it's as if uh, there is a goal that must be achieved. Life is about a goal that must be achieved, as opposed
mm,
to life is a mystery that is to be lived, or life is a journey that is to be lived, you know? And if we really believe that being good to yourself, being good to your others, and saying thank you is enough, that also completely changes our sense of a sense of the everyday, We don't have to be saving lives in our jobs to have a meaningful life. Um,
okay.
yeah,
Okay. This is
yeah.
another deep, delicious theme. It's interesting. Viktor Frankl's book is called Mankind's Search for Meaning. And I just want to take a snapshot of where we are as
Mm-hmm.
a global citizen.
Mm,
This proliferation of technology, let's just focus on that for now, is really going to shift our making systems. I'm talking about how rapidly AI, for example, is really replacing human intelligence. I'll put it bluntly. If you're truly aware of what's possible right now, you'll know exactly what I mean. And how whatever physical capacities you have, robots are far more accurate, far more powerful. So whatever meaning you gave to your career, your profession, your physical, mental capacities, they're all going to take a little shaking for most of us anyway. Right? So where is a sense of meaning when you've got machines that can do physical and mental stuff way better than you?
mm. It's such an important question, It can be scary, or it can open up what huge wells of opportunity for rethinking what meaning means. And I what's coming to me now is this memory of a story. I think it was Daniel Goleman who tells this story, the
Mhm.
man who writes on emotional intelligence,
Yeah,
also a
yeah, yeah.
psychologist.
Hmm.
There was this bus driver in New York City. I'll find the name and we could put it in the notes of this, the name of this amazing bus driver. And Goldman was, it was like a hot, gross day and he was in a rush and he gets on this bus in New York City. And the bus driver knew the names of all of the usual people who go on the bus. He was like, hey, how are you? How's your mother doing? How's this? How's that? And the bus driver was also like a history buff. And so as they would drive by different monuments, he would go into detail about it and really people walking in on that bus on that bus would be, New York, summertime, not in the best mood, and people walking out of that bus in a state of absolute bliss and community. And when this bus driver retired, New York showed up for his
Woo!
retirement, and there was a huge celebration. And this man is an icon in New York. Um, and I love that story, because the power to make someone else's day is huge. People don't grow up saying, what is the most meaningful job you can think of? Probably being a bus driver. That's not our concept of the most meaningful job, but this person's place in the world, in his community, had a huge impact. Um, so many stories like this.
There's so many ways we can go with this. I watched a movie
Yeah.
slash documentary, maybe you saw it as well, called I think it's called Perfect Days or Perfect
It's
Day.
my favorite movie.
You know, it's this
It's my
Japanese
favorite movie.
janitor, right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's my favorite movie.
He's living such a simple, bewilderingly simple life, yet
Yeah.
there's so much meaning to every single thing he does.
I have goosebumps, yeah. And I think in that movie, meaning comes up in so many different ways. First of all, let's talk about music. He gets in the car and he plays a tape. And the music in that movie is so amazing. It fills his spirit on his drives to the toilet, right? Another aspect is a job well done. This person is meticulous with cleaning the toilets and really wants to do it well. And if you give yourself fully to any task, any activity, and you're fully present to it, whether you're a surgeon or a toilet bowl cleaner, there's meaning in that act. There's meaning in the full presence given to the intention of a job well done, you know? This man also is really generous with others. He takes in his niece, he dances, he does that beautiful dance with the person who's dying. Just rich, a life so rich with meaning from this toilet bowl cleaner in Tokyo. Max, my partner, often says there are infinitely many kinds of beautiful lives. And I feel that our Western culture shows us one image of a beautiful life, and that is the life that we are to have if we are to have a beautiful life. But there are infinitely many kinds of beautiful lives. And a beautiful life to me is a life that is rich in meaning. And that is why Perfect Days is my favorite movie. For all of your listeners who haven't watched, please go watch. It's a Wim Wenders movie. It's really special. It's really meaningful.
What are the odds? I was a complete shot in the dark, and I happened to land right on your favorite movie.
Yeah,
I totally get why.
that was crazy.
And the way
Yeah,
you express it is just dead on, is exactly how I felt. It's the kind of movie that just stays in you, just stays in you. It changes you.
totally.
It literally like
Totally.
reconfigures your DNA almost. It's so simple because we're so used to that Instagram form of a good life,
Yes.
that opulence, the grandeur, the prestige. And there's a
Yeah.
guy who's a janitor just living the most impeccable life, so rich
Yeah.
with meaning. So
Yeah.
I'm playing with the notion of the meaning is the meaning we give it.
Mm. The meaning is the meaning we give it. And that goes back into our earlier conversation on freedom. The freedom to choose our own story, the freedom to choose our own meaning, the
Mm.
freedom to choose our own attitude. And so
Yeah.
I completely agree. The meaning is the meaning we give it. Yeah. Can you
So
elaborate? Say more on what you mean by that.
this is beautiful. I don't know. Let's find out. I am cleaning the toilet, and
Hmm.
the meaning I'm giving it is I don't want to be here right now. I want to go play tennis instead. Scene
Yeah.
one. Scene two. I'm cleaning the toilet, and the meaning I'm giving it is I want to clean the house and I want to have a clean toilet,
Hmm.
right? Okay, scene three. I'm cleaning the toilet and all I'm doing is just cleaning the toilet and making it as beautiful as possible. Why? Because that's what I want to do. I want to make the toilet as
Hmm.
beautiful as possible. That's the meaning I'm giving
Totally. Yeah. And in scene three, again, I'm reminded of Alan Watts, this idea. He talks about people who are dancing.
it.
And he says the goal of dancing is not to get from one side of the stage to the other. If it was, people would be rushing across the stage. It would be the best dancers, the ones who get there fastest. There is no goal, it's just to dance.
Mm.
And, if you're cleaning the toilet like a dance and you're, attending to the brush strokes and making it beautiful and clean and following it, it becomes a dance.
It's so interesting you use that metaphor because I'm thinking right away of what recollected was the Usain Bolt, who was maybe still is, I don't know, of the fastest man in the world.
Hmm.
Extremely fast. And he's the guy who's probably in that other alternative universe, he's the best dancer in the world. Super fast.
Yeah.
But all that to say is that in an interview, I remember him saying, I've been blessed to be the fastest man on earth. I'm so grateful. It's a divine blessing. I'm so grateful that God has blessed me to be the fastest man in the world. And that's the meaning he's giving it. The meaning he's
Hmm.
giving it is I'm blessed. So there is no sense of performance in that. There's just a gratitude and
Mm.
acceptance. And you can feel that because he's accepted that, he's that fraction of a second faster, maybe. But the others have not fully accepted that. They haven't given that meaning fully. So they're still trying to be the fastest man, where the meaning he's giving it is that he's already the fastest man. And that might be the little difference.
Totally. Well, you raised 2 points, the point of God and the point of identity,
Mm.
right? The point of God is I've been blessed to be the fastest man. In a way, it's I am just a vessel. I am, and it takes away the ego because you didn't choose that. God has chosen it. Um, and you think about the idea of genius. We speak in our culture about being a genius. He's a genius. She's a genius. But in the past, a genius was thought of as kind of like a little fairy that you either had or didn't have. Some people had this mystical fairy called a genius that would come to them and whisper poems or songs into their ears, and they would be the prism through which this fairy's light is bent. They would be the vessel that carries on the orders of the fairy. So you weren't a genius, maybe you had a genius. So these amazing writers didn't say I'm a genius, they would say I have a genius. It might leave, but there is a genius that has been visiting me. And a
Mm.
lot of people, a lot of creatives describe the creative experience like that. There's a download that comes to them, but it's not coming out of them necessarily.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It takes the ego out of it big time, and with that also the pressure. It's not
Uh,
me. It's the genius. It's the fairy over here on my shoulder.
can I share with you the best example I ever saw of this? So this
Yeah,
is so
please.
rich in my memory. It's like it happened just yesterday, but it's going back about 15 years or so. I'm
Mm,
listening to this album called Now by a guy called
mm,
Bhaskar. And it's like a really good album. It's got beats. It's like super good. I'm getting into this album, super good. And I'm going to Toronto for a yoga conference. So I go to this yoga conference in Toronto, and there he is. There's Bhagwan Das, this very tall man. And I went up to him and said, Bhagwan Das, man, your album now, it's so good. He just looked down at me with his sparkling eyes. He goes, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's such a good album. I can't believe how good it is. He's talking about his own album. He's like, I was in the
yeah,
studio, the Beastie Boys came in, we started jamming, and the album just happened. And like he's talking about something with zero ownership. Like he was
yes.
privileged to witness something amazing happening, as if he was a portal for that genius and not the source of it. It was so void of ego that it almost sounded hyper arrogant. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Like
I
he's
do, because
speaking
it could
so
easily
high.
be
Because
confused as
most
that.
people
You're
would
like,
say,
yeah, it's
"Oh,
amazing.
thank you. No, it's nothing. I just did it." They'll try to, sort of
Yeah,
uh, divert the praise to something else. But the guy was like, "Absolutely, it was amazing. It was amazing."
totally.
And I'm like, "Who talks like
Totally.
that?"
Yeah.
And I
No,
had
I
to be
think
checked on that. Yeah.
that is the perfect example. That is the
Uh,
perfect example. You're like, yeah, whoa. That was crazy. What just happened? That was an amazing album.
yeah, yeah.
And
Einstein as well. Like E equals MC squared. Where'd that come from? That's genius.
Yeah,
How'd that
I have a
happen?
genius.
I have a
Yeah,
genius.
I have a
You're
genius, like
equally
a
in
little.
awe of the genius without any sense of ownership.
Yes, exactly. And I think that not having a sense of ownership uh, is very healthy psychologically. It takes away a lot of the pressure, for instance.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think there's some truth to it. I really believe that this idea that we either are or are not a genius is a cultural idea, and that other cultures thought that a genius was something that either came to you or didn't. I don't know, I
Mm.
feel there's some truth to that.
And also, as a
Yeah.
society, we value certain geniuses more than others. You could be a
Oh,
genius
amen.
gardener, you could be a genius, whatever, but we don't value it as much as
Toilet bowl cleaner.
toilet bowl cleaner. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we value the genius in the bank who's going to make the bank the most money, but we don't necessarily value the great, great, great indigenous grandmother who, if we would have listened to her words, would have painted the world for us, given us instruction to create a sustainable world, a world where all beings could continue living.
I feel like stopping right there. That was
Mhm.
a mic drop moment. Dead on.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more pillar, so we continue. This is my turn to do a horrible
So,
segue.
yeah, give me one more pillar. So, we spoke about freedom, we spoke about death, we spoke about meaning. The last pillar is isolation. And so, when I say isolation, what's the first thing that you think about?
I've a siloed existence. It's me against everybody else. I have to prove my worth in the world. I've got to fight my way through. Otherwise, I'm dead. It's me against everybody else.
Mm, totally. And that would be a sense of interpersonal isolation. So this idea, it's me against everybody else, I'm alone. Also, there are moments loneliness essentially. I come into this world alone. I leave the world alone. All of us will have moments of profound loneliness at one point or another in our life, whether that's while we're in the midst of grief, whether that's while we're right before a huge life transition. I think all of the people listening will have experienced some moment, great or small, of loneliness, interpersonal loneliness. And there are two other types of loneliness that we think about less often, um, that are still existentially important, hugely existentially important. The second one is what I would call, and what writers call, intrapersonal isolation. What that means is there are so many different parts of ourselves, and some of those parts we push aside so we don't have to see them. So many different words I could use for push aside. I could say repress, I could say dissociate from, I could say ignore, I could use the term shadow. There are so many different words we can use for the parts of ourselves that we isolate from. And in isolating from those different parts of ourselves, we cannot be whole. We cannot feel a sense of integrity, wholeness, fullness. There's a sense of isolation that we feel subtly, like a buzz in the room. And we'll go into those. I said a lot there. You
Before
have
I
a
go for the third
question?
one,
Yeah.
I sense what you mean, but could you give a tangible example so I can really understand what you mean?
Tangible example would be, let's say, for instance, I was a very sensitive child, and I was really sensitive to the world, and sometimes I would laugh really huge, and sometimes I would cry really huge. And I was given the instruction to stop being so sensitive from the young age. Stop crying. Shh, stop it. Um, and I learned that that sensitive part is not welcome in this environment. And so I push it beneath the surface. And so
Clarify,
now I
push
live in
it.
exist.
Clarify how you mean push it.
So I'm not consciously necessarily pushing it beneath the surface, but my psyche will push down that part of me and try and bring up other parts of me that are more accepted from my
Mhm.
environment. So let's say I do really, really well in school, and I'm given positive reinforcement from my parents for my school grades, but negative reinforcement from my parents for crying when I saw another parent screaming at my friend, for instance, I learn over time what parts of me are allowed and what parts of me are not allowed. And I become very practiced at showing others the parts of me that aren't allowed, not showing others the parts of me, sorry, showing others the parts of me that are allowed, not showing others the parts of me that are not allowed. But slowly over time, as I only show the parts of me that are allowed, I myself lose sight of the parts of me that were not allowed. I myself begin to forget those parts. And then myself become isolated from those parts that are a part of me, but that I haven't visited for a very long time, or I've ignored for a very long time.
So I have isolated that part of me that is emotionally expressive.
In this example,
This
yes.
example
That
here.
is that is that is not just emotionally expressive in this example, that is sensitive.
Sensitive.
Sensitive. And so I might then
Because
have a
you could be
diff
sensitive, but you might have suppressed the part that expresses the sensitivity. So you might be sort of swallowing.
totally, totally. It could be both. It could be
Hmm.
both. It could be you're just expressing, you're suppressing the expression, or you're suppressing the sensitivity altogether, where you become a little bit more numb, and a little bit less feeling. You develop a thicker skin.
Yeah, got it. Got it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. And there was a third.
And does that clarify?
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
very helpful. And there's so many different flavors of this. I'm reflecting it on myself. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just when I was growing up, middle class Indian family, it was seen as giving praise to your children. It brings in the evil eye, so you don't praise your children. Um,
Mm.
so so um, that part of me that wanted to be praised kind of got isolated, but yet it kind of mutated and showed up in different ways that
Yeah.
really made me do things, lies, errors, exaggerations, omissions, all that kind of stuff, just because I wanted that feeling of praise that was suppressed as a kid. And conversely, that feeling of humiliation, what I perceived as humiliation was so painful. Again, I distorted myself so that I could avoid that feeling of humiliation.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
There
And
was no
there
conscious of
are,
it. So they were isolated, but they were also in my unconscious. And hence that kind of
yes,
inner work really helps to bring light to those parts. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And there's a whole other sort of branch of psychology called IFS, internal family systems,
Yeah.
that deals exclusively in parts work, in getting to know the whole family of people inside of you and having them meet each other, and integrate. And it's really powerful work. So that's intrapersonal. So we said interpersonal isolation, so feeling lonely.
Hmm.
Intrapersonal isolation, essentially being scattered internally, having different parts of
Yeah.
yourself that are isolated from each other. And this could also be psychologically difficult because sometimes those two parts oppose one another. There's a part of me that
Hmm.
wants to be seen and validated. There's a part of me that's ashamed for wanting to be seen and validated because I wasn't given that as a child and I was told it was the evil eye. So those two parts are battling inside of me and it creates psychic tension.
Yeah. That's what in my vocabulary is called a polarity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the more acquainted we are with all the different parts of ourselves, the less polarities, the less psychic tension we have internally.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then lastly is sort of this existential loneliness, this not loneliness, existential isolation, the idea that I really am separate on some level from you. I am isolated from other beings in the world. There is a gap between me and you.
That's not
And that
interpersonal. How is that different from interpersonal?
interpersonal could be, let's say I'm having a dark night of the soul, and it's more existential than interpersonal.
Ah.
It's even deeper. Let me explain. So
Mm, mm.
an interpersonal loneliness, let's say, might be the elderly person who's lost all of their friends and spend a lot of their nights at home alone. a literal aloneness,
Yeah, got it.
lonely.
Lonely.
The existential isolation is the fact that I could be lying in bed next to my lover of 20 years, but I'll never know what it's like to live inside of his head. Even though I'm right next to him, I am completely alone.
So feeling that same feeling of aloneness or loneliness, but with people. So you could be in a house, you could be in a family, you could be in a crowd of thousands, but you're still feeling alone. Again,
You
let's
can,
let's
yeah.
parse out the words alone and lonely. Are you feeling a difference between those two, or can I
Yeah,
interpret?
I would say isolated versus alone.
Okay,
So
okay.
in the first one, in this interpersonal, you might feel alone. In this existential, you might feel isolated. You are living a whole complex universe inside of you that nobody else has access to, that you couldn't possibly communicate if you tried, and vice versa. And so there are moments of pure bliss where you feel so connected to others and so connected to the world, and you feel a sense of spiritual oneness. And then there are moments of the absolute opposite where you feel so that the gap between you and others is unbridgeable.
Mm, okay, here's what's coming up.
Hmm.
I'm an old person. My family's not calling me anymore. No real friends, no sense of community.
Mm.
The objective reality is I'm isolated.
Hmm.
Yet the subjective experience I'm projecting here could be
Yeah,
lonely.
yeah. And to
Could might not be.
further
It might be
distinct,
fulfilling. It might be freedom. It might be something else.
exactly.
One
And to
option is yeah. Mhm.
I think to further distinguish, just to make the two different concepts clearer that we could use with that, in using that example that you just gave, is I could be an elder, I could be alone in my home, no one's calling me, no one's coming over, and I could be interpersonally lonely. But existentially, I could have lived, let's say, a spiritual life where I, in my bones, in my spirit, in my soul, in whatever word you like to use, know that I am one with all that is and has ever been. And so in that
Okay,
moment, I could
okay,
be
got it.
interpersonally lonely, but existentially not isolated.
I'm going to use a taboo
But
word here.
culturally,
Are we talking
yeah,
about spiritual connection and disconnection? As in, yeah.
we could be. We don't necessarily have to be, but we could be.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's the
And
third one.
so
That's the
that's
third
the
one.
third one. That's the existential fact that there's an unbridgeable gap between me and any other human being. There are some
A
spiritual
human
traditions
being,
that
or we're
practice
talking also about all sentient
anything,
beings,
all sentient
Gaia.
beings.
All right.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Got it. Okay.
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
call it? Is that called extra personal? What's that called?
We can call it whatever we'd
Let's
like.
call it extra personal.
Let's call it extra personal. Yeah. Um, and then so the opposite also exists, right? The meaning, the existentially non-isolated moments of oneness.
So what I'm hearing is independent of objective reality.
It depends how you think of objective reality. Yes, you can be alone in a room feeling existentially isolated or alone in a room feeling existentially connected to all.
That's it. Yeah. That's how I mean it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Or
Yeah.
you could be
Yeah.
in the scion, or you could be in this tribe of people that are just having this ecstatic time of feeling a oneness. You're not feeling it. And you're just
Totally. You're
feeling
like, are they
awkward and like you
faking
don't
it?
belong and what the hell am I doing here? And I've been there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that
Totally.
feeling. I'll say
Totally. It's a
this.
very scary feeling.
Yeah, you had something coming up?
No, go ahead.
After you live a certain amount of years, you've been through a whole bunch of intense experiences and emotions. Well, I'll say that's true for myself. I've experienced some super hard and heavy emotions. The one that I had the toughest time with, me personally, was lonely. I had such a difficult time with that. It was unbearable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure so many people are listening to this nodding their heads. I think that loneliness is one of the most unbearable human experiences. There's research on loneliness that shows it's more dangerous than smoking. We are tribe pack animals. And so, evolutionarily, if we were alone, that meant we were vulnerable to be eaten and killed. And so, woven into our DNA is this idea of wanting to be part of a group. And feeling alone is terrorizing. Feeling lonely can be terrorizing. And I also think, I'll take that one step further. Sorry, someone just walked into my house, so the dog is crying with exuberance. Um, I think that there's something really interesting about loneliness in that once we have had the experience of being profoundly lonely, it's almost as if a new form of compassion for others has been birthed, where it's like, aha, you have once been lonely too. I have once been lonely too. I see you. And I find that in a weird counterintuitive way, loneliness to me is sort of the birth of a new way of connecting. And I feel like in that sense, there is no real loneliness. Loneliness is just one time stamp of like a longer weave of connectedness. It's part of the process. Just like going to the gym at one point, your muscles hurt before they get stronger.
I'm feeling into how that feeling is almost like a rites of passage. There's a teacher called
Mm,
Osho. Osho says you can't really be in love unless you are in love with yourself when you're alone.
mm.
Unless you can be alone and in love, you cannot really be in love with somebody else. I'm paraphrasing,
Well,
tremendous
that
that
takes us
idea.
to this existential isolation. If
Hmm.
you can be alone in the mystery and uncertainty of existence and the fact that you're going to die and just at peace and smiling, how could you not connect to someone else? How could you not have the power to connect to someone else? It
Yeah.
becomes a given. Yeah.
And look at us now in society. We try so hard to avoid that feeling, isn't it? And it's so easy now. I can pull up whatever video I want. I can be with whoever I want to on YouTube or whatever else, whatever movie I want to, just to distract myself from the reality that, hey, I'm alone. I don't want to feel that.
Yes.
Yet in that feeling, there is a rites of passage into tapping into something profoundly loving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And creative. Yeah. Boredom, I feel creativity is birthed in boredom in many circumstances.
Yes, boredom. And I have three children, the youngest one being 8 years old, and the joy of boredom. You don't have to be amused, entertained all the time. You're sitting there doing nothing, looking out the window. Suddenly, these ideas, inspirations come, and you suddenly get lost in this creative act. So, the boredom is the fertile soil and spaciousness for something new to emerge. Otherwise, you're just doing
Mm.
same old stagnant stuff from the past.
Same old stagnant stuff. Boredom is the space between stimulus and response.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I work a lot with, as
Mhm.
I'm sure you do as well, as high functioning people, the do, go, go, go.
Yeah.
And the suggestion slash prescription of extreme laziness. Just allow yourself to be bored. Sit with that and see what happens. Imagine sitting for 3 hours and doing nothing.
Hmm.
Not meditating,
Hmm.
not contemplating, not reading a book,
Hmm.
no screens, just literally doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to one extreme, check out the other extreme. And in the
Hmm.
other extreme, you will it holds the genius to where
Yeah.
we're stagnating here.
I totally believe that. I really do. I think that, sometimes it's not so simple where one extreme necessarily holds the genius to where you're stagnating here, but I think that in a lot of cases it might give you some insights.
That's it.
And yeah, yeah, and I think that there's no such thing as boredom. Your being doesn't allow it. Like as soon as you're not resisting what is, a huge wellspring of ideas and colors come to your psyche.
You've said something that is one of my some people, what is the one thing you can say that sounds unbelievable? or might sound whatever, pretentious, arrogant, whatever it might be. My one thing is I've never experienced bored. I don't know what bored is. There's just so much happening inside me in that sense of you can be doing nothing, you can be feeling lonely. It's very different to bored. I don't know what bored even means.
I hear you. I feel like, yeah, bored is just a radical resistance of what is. It's like, I don't
Uh,
want to be here. I want to be doing something else. I like, take me out of this situation. It's uninteresting to me. You're not
bored
taking
is a
advantage.
radical resistance to what is.
Yeah, I feel, yeah. You know, what's coming up to me for me is, let's say, for instance, you're in a conversation um, where people are bad-mouthing someone else or talking about something that, unimportant. People are complaining about their smoothie or something like that. And in that moment, you could be sitting in that conversation listening to someone complaining about their smoothie or complaining about some sort of a luxury that they have and you finding it uninteresting. You could be sitting there bored, oh, I wish I was somewhere else. I wish I was in a different conversation. Or you can really, really attend to the words that are chosen. You can breathe in all of the different smells in the space. You can attend to the colors of the smoothie. You can try and find the good in the person in front of you. There's infinitely many things you can do in your own head.
I'm
Or
also
you can
thinking
choose to
into
be bored.
something.
Yeah.
There is a resistance to what is due to a heightened sense of self-importance.
Yes.
I am far too
Totally.
important for this. This is beneath
Yes.
me.
Yes. I think that's so true. I'm
Mm.
above it. I'm bored. It's below me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
So dropping the importance and being with the moment as it is. And suddenly there's
Yeah.
no boredom anymore.
Yeah.
You're
And
listening
then,
to the pace and cadence of the voice. You're listening to the body language, the subtle nuances behind the expression, what they're really trying to say. They're trying to communicate their appreciation for you, their affection for you through these words. You're picking into certain nuances that you might not be picking into if you're resisting. When you drop that self-importance and be all in, suddenly
yeah.
that is no longer boring anymore, and you find the ordinary extraordinary.
Yeah. You find the toilets beautiful.
Yeah.
And and I think that it brings us back to what we first started with freedom, the freedom to choose your story in every given set of circumstances, and the fact that whether you're aware of it being a choice or not, you're always choosing. So if you are bored, you are choosing to put that label on your experience and to living it as that. There are infinitely many other choices available to you. I think about one of my first, when I was so young, I don't even remember how old I was. I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and it was like, blew my mind. I really was so touched by that book. And there was one point where he says, in life, you have three options. You essentially accept your situation fully, or sorry, two options. You accept your situation fully, or you change it. All else is insanity.
Yeah. Isn't that quote? I don't know who said it, that Serenity quote. God give me the power to change the things I can, the something like the grace to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes,
Something like
the
that.
Serenity Prayer.
Serenity
Yes.
prayer. Yeah.
Yes. That prayer is often used in Alcoholics Anonymous groups, people who are recovering from addiction. And it's so true. It's okay. What do I have to accept? What do I have to change? Those are my only two options because I am free. Because I
Mm.
am free. And changing is one of the most difficult, it's one of the most desired and difficult things as part of our human experience. But we are free to change. Neuroplasticity, the fact that our brains are changing for our whole lives is a real thing. We can change our own brains.
This is you just brought up something that's becoming like a bonus feature director's cut. I didn't. I think it's worthy of attention here. Okay,
Yeah.
say I'm an addict to whatever, gambling, alcohol, pornography, YouTube videos, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
How can I implement this in a practical way?
How can you implement what?
This
The
notion that the addiction is a choice and there's a freedom to choose, is what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really don't think that if you're in a serious addiction, let's say addiction to alcoholism, that you can or should change it on your own. I think that you need to go and get professional help, especially, for instance, with alcohol. If you're addicted to alcohol and you stop drinking, you can die. So I think it's
And
very,
certain drugs, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah. So for your listeners, if you're going through any sort of addiction, there are a huge amount of resources of people who can help you. And there are also resources, which I think is really powerful, of people who have been through the same addiction and come out the other end who can help you. Um, and I think that's one of the most important, pillars of groups like Alcoholics Anonymous is having models of people who have gone through the same thing. I think that oftentimes when people are going through very, very, very serious addictions, for instance, with alcohol, they feel like they need something greater than themselves to get them out of it. I think a lot of people who recover from addiction find a new faith in spirit or God or the universe or something that they need to help bring them out of that, and that's pretty consistent across the board. But to answer your question is how can they get out of it? I think that we always have to believe that we have a choice. As soon as we start believing that we're stuck,
Yeah. And that's
as
the
soon as
meaning
we start
of the game.
choosing to believe
Yeah.
that we're stuck, yeah,
Yeah.
then we're choosing to believe that we're stuck is a choice. And now we're in that stuck path.
The
But
narrative,
the
the belief.
second,
Yeah.
exactly.
Quite often
And the second
unexamined,
we
quite often operating from the subconscious.
Exactly. Your client will say, a client will say, my husband is this, that, and the other. And I might give a response that asks about their responsibility in the dynamic.
Mm.
And they might have a response of truly believing that I just really don't understand how narcissistic their husband is. I'm really just not getting it. So no sense of responsibility for the dynamic or the context or the situation or the capacity to leave the situation. So then you have no margin of change, no possibility of changing.
So if I could put it in steps, step one,
Yeah.
be aware of the reality.
Yes.
And step
The
two is notice the meaning you're giving it. Like, for example, hey, Bhaskar, this bottle of whiskey is the only friend I got. You want to get a friend away from me? Not going to happen. All right. So
mhm,
notice the meaning you're giving it. And then we have that freedom to keep
to
that
choose a
meaning, change that
response.
meaning, choose a response. Yeah. And then the
Exactly. Yeah.
response might be a conscious choice, a willingness to choose a differential, but the capacity might not be there. And what I'm hearing is if you need more capacity, reach out for support, go to these
Yeah.
groups, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. And those first two steps are the most important steps. And
Hmm.
then once you've done those first two steps, infinitely many ways you can get out, you can change your
Any
situation.
means necessary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many means.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
Beloved Lauren, any landing words that might benefit the cyber world of potentialities, the digital infinite universe we've just placed ourselves in?
I love your questions. Um, yeah, I think I would say be nice to each other. I think the power to make someone else's day is huge. I think we underestimate what being nice to each other, to the people on the bus, to the person at the cafe, we underestimate the power of that to change the spaces around us. And it's very simple and it feels so good. So I think I would say just go out of your way to be nice to each other.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. How about you?
Your words echoed Aldous Huxley when he was dying. He said, it's kind of embarrassing after all these decades of research and contemplation. The best I can say is try to be a little kinder. But what's coming up for me is I know I just saw your gorgeous, gorgeous new puppy, Mila. So be the person your dog thinks you are.
Be the person your dog thinks you are. That's so funny. You're gonna breed some narcissists.
No, I'm sincerely though. Let's wrap it up with that. Just be aware that when that dread comes up, it's likely going to have one of these four flavors: death, isolation, meaningless, or this overwhelm of freedom. And just that
Yeah.
awareness holds the key. Just being aware of it. Ah, okay, this is an overwhelm of freedom, or this is a stuckness of fear of death. So just knowing that I find is so profound, and may the time we spend together be of benefit in terms of deepening and expanding and broadening our perspective and understanding on this. So if you've served that purpose in any way, I'm super grateful.
Same. And when those come up, I invite people to have a sense of curiosity. Wow, here it is, my dread, my fear of isolation, my fear of death, my need to create my own meaning. Huh? Fun. Let's play. That's a hope that I have too.
I hear podcast is doing this, so I'll ask you as well. How do
Okay.
people find you? If people want
How
to
do people
find you,
find me?
yeah.
People find me. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. We can put them towards my LinkedIn. You can find me on my website. We can put my website. I'm also a therapist at a clinic called Open Space. You could find me on the clinic's website. So lots of places to find me. I'm everywhere.
And to the best of my understanding, you might be the only Lauren Deckelbaum in Montreal, so pretty easy to find.
Oh,
Maybe.
I think so. I actually feel like there was a rabbi's wife whose name was Lauren
Is
Deckelbaum.
that right? So this is the one that's
I
not
think
the rabbi's
so.
wife, just to be
I am
clear
not the
about
rabbi's wife. Yes.
that. It's the other Lauren Deckelbaum, not that one.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Love you, my
That's
dear.
funny.
Absolute pleasure.
I
I don't
love
know how to stop
you.
recording. Okay,
Thank you
let's
so,
press a
so
button here.
much.
Yeah, much love.
Much